Forget Morgan Rogers. Arsenal have just opened new negotiations to sign a player described as absolutely terrifying and far superior to the Aston Villa star. Meanwhile, Arsenal have just delivered a bombshell update on Bruno Guimarães. And finally, Hamburg have publicly confirmed that they have made an offer for an Arsenal star who could finally be on his way out of the Emirates. If you want all the details on these explosive stories as Arsenal respond to the Rodgers setback in the most exciting way possible, subscribe right now, turn on notifications, and let's get straight into it. Let's jump straight into the first story because the dust has barely settled on the Morgan Rogers heartbreak, and Andrea Berta has already identified the response. And according to reports, Arsenal have opened fresh talks to sign Athletic Club's Nico Williams. And Gooners, when you look at this properly, this might actually be a better outcome than Rogers ever would have been. Let us start with the most important number in this entire story. Williams has a release clause in his contract with Athletic Club worth approximately £77 million. Chelsea paid £117 million for Rogers. That is a £40 million saving on a player who many analysts and former professionals have described as more naturally suited to the left-wing role Arsenal have been desperately trying to fill all summer. The financial logic alone is compelling, but the football argument is even stronger. Rogers, as talented as he undeniably is primarily an attacking midfielder by trade. At Arsenal, he would have been deployed on the left wing, a position that is not his most natural home. He would have adapted, undoubtedly, but there would always have been a period of adjustment and a question about where his best football truly comes from. Nico Williams has no such ambiguity. He is a pure, natural left-winger, explosive, direct, devastating in 1-versus-1 situations. The kind of player who makes defenders genuinely fearful from the first minute to the last. The description of Williams as absolutely frightening is not hyperbole. It is the honest assessment of people who have watched him operate at the highest level consistently. His performances for Spain at Euro 2024 were breathtaking. He was arguably the player of the tournament, creating havoc along the left side in a way that elite defenders simply could not handle. He was 21 years old doing that on the biggest international stage in European football. The ceiling on this player is enormous. Earlier this summer, Williams signed a remarkable 10-year contract with Athletic Club, and which seemed to close the door permanently on any transfer. But Team Talk confirmed just weeks ago that Arsenal's interest had never gone away, and sources close to the player indicated he would be open to testing himself in the Premier League if the right opportunity arrived. That release clause of £77 million is the key that unlocks the entire situation. Any club willing to trigger it legally ends the conversation with Athletic Club immediately. No negotiation required, no prolonged standoff. Missing Rogers to Chelsea is painful, but if Berta can trigger that release clause and bring Nico Williams to the Emirates, the left-wing position is not just filled, it is transformed. A natural winger, a proven match winner, a player with a higher ceiling and a lower price tag than the man who chose Stamford Bridge. Sometimes the transfer that falls through leads to something better. This could be one of those times. So Gooners, with a £77 million release clause, do you want Arsenal to trigger it immediately and sign Nico Williams, or are you still hurting too much about Rogers to get excited about alternatives? Drop everything in the comments right now. Now let's talk about Bruno Guimarães, because a significant new update has just arrived that changes the financial picture of this transfer in a meaningful and potentially decisive way. And the timeline of events over the next 2 weeks could determine whether this deal happens or dies completely. The most important new detail is the fee. Reports are now suggesting it would take around £80 million for Newcastle to enter into genuine club-to-club negotiations with Arsenal. Not the £100 million that the Telegraph reported, not the £65 million that Lee Ryder suggested could be the tipping point. £80 million, sitting right between those two figures and representing a number that Arsenal can absolutely meet if the decision is made to do so. This matters enormously in the context of what has just happened with Rogers. The £117 million that would have gone to Aston Villa is now sitting in Arsenal's account. £80 million for Guimaraes is a fraction of that figure. The budget argument for not pursuing this deal has effectively evaporated overnight. If Rodgers' departure to Chelsea has created any silver lining whatsoever, it is that Arsenal now have significantly more financial flexibility to make the Guimaraes deal happen than they did 72 hours ago. The timeline is also critically important right now. Guimaraes has been given the mandatory 21 days off following Brazil's World Cup exit on July the 5th, which takes him to this coming weekend. He is expected to report back to Newcastle next week and will then be involved in their training camp in La Manga starting July the 31st, with a potential appearance against Valencia on August the 8th. Arsenal, meanwhile, face Girona in their first pre-season friendly on August the 1st in Spain. That overlapping schedule in Spain next week creates a fascinating backdrop. Both clubs in the same country at the same time, with Guimaraes preparing to return to a club he has told he wants to leave. Arsenal are expected to make a direct formal approach to Newcastle imminently, and when that approach arrives with a serious number attached, Newcastle will have a decision to make about whether £80 million for a 28-year-old captain who wants to leave is business worth doing. Newcastle will desperately hope there is no repeat of the Isak saga, the striker who trained away from the first team for weeks to force Liverpool's move last summer. Guimaraes has committed to handling this respectfully. But a player with an immovable desire to leave, a release clause of 0, and a club demanding £80 million is a situation that has a very limited number of possible outcomes. Arsenal make the formal offer, force Newcastle's hand. So Gooners, at £80 million with the Rodgers budget now freed up, do you think Arsenal pull the trigger on Guimaraes this week, or does the Nico Williams pursuit take priority? This is the biggest tactical debate of the entire summer. Let me know. Now let's round things off with the Fabio Vieira situation, because Hamburg have just gone remarkably public about their pursuit of the Portuguese midfielder, and Arsenal's response to their opening bid tells you exactly how Berta operates when clubs come in below his valuation. Hamburg executive board member Eric Heuer confirmed everything during the club's pre-season training camp in Austria, and his choice to do so publicly is itself a fascinating negotiating tactic. "We've fallen a little bit in love with Fabio," he told supporters. "We're fighting for him every day and have also submitted figures to Arsenal." And then came the admission that every Arsenal fan needed to hear about how Berta operates. They're not even budging yet. Despite that, Heuer remained publicly optimistic, adding that Hamburg are confident they can make a competitive offer within their means without taking on any debt. Hamburg falling in love with Vieira is entirely understandable. The 26-year-old was outstanding during his loan spell last season, scoring 7 goals and providing 5 assists in 29 Bundesliga appearances, as the club comfortably secured their top-flight status. Those are excellent numbers for a midfielder at a newly promoted side finding their feet back in the Bundesliga. The German club want to keep the player who has been one of their best performers, and that desire is both genuine and commercially logical. But here is why Arsenal are absolutely right not to budge. Vieira joined from Porto in 2022 with high expectations, and despite never quite fulfilling his potential at the Emirates, the market has evolved dramatically since that transfer. Arsenal paid £32 million for him. With just 1 year remaining on his contract, the leverage sits with Hamburg rather than Arsenal, but Berta is refusing to let that contractual reality drive him into accepting a below-market offer. If Arsenal hold firm until Hamburg improve their bid, or until another club enters the race and creates genuine competition, the fee will rise to a number that better reflects a Premier League experienced, internationally capped Portuguese midfielder. The broader picture is also important here. Every pound Arsenal generate from outgoings this summer directly feeds into the incoming budget for Barcola, Guimaraes, Alvarez or Williams. Accepting a low fee for Vieira costs Arsenal not just on that specific deal, it costs them on every subsequent negotiation they try to make with the budget generated by sales. Hold firm, Berta. Hamburg will come back with a better number. They have already publicly admitted how much they want this player. That is not a strong negotiating position for a buying club. Use it. So Gooners, what do you think is the right price for Fabio Vieira given everything he showed at Hamburg last season? And should Arsenal hold out for the fee they want or accept a compromise to free up funds for bigger targets? Drop your honest take in the comments. All right, Gooners, smash that subscribe button right now if you haven't already. Every Arsenal update, every transfer development, every breaking story, delivered to you immediately and completely free. Do not miss a single second of what is shaping up to be a historic summer. And I need to know right now, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city and your country in the comments immediately. Every single week, the global reach of this Arsenal family absolutely blows my mind. From London to Lagos, from Madrid to Melbourne, I read every single one. Until next time, Gooners, come on you Gunners.